We're in AP Lit, and we just read the poem Dover Beach, and we're going to talk about it for a few minutes. The question I have is, have you noticed the structure of the poem? Could anybody address that from the beginning? This is not a sonnet, but did you notice it's kind of a problem and solution structure? Okay, it is. That might have helped you if I'd said that earlier, but you know, that's the kind of thing you need to look for. Whatever this poem is about, whatever this poem is about, you have to understand the precise details of the poem, the precise setting as much as you can, the setting, the characters, the situation. David, last period, he did something, we've done it before. We had a really good discussion just the other day about a poem, but you've done this before, but you've got to be able to do it. What he did was, he connected what he said was the meaning of the poem with a major detail metaphor in the poem. He didn't use the word metaphor, and you don't have to, because he did, that'd be great if you could label it what it is. And that's ultimately what you're going to have to do in May when you write about a poem. You're going to have to connect. You can't just tell me what the poem means. You've got to get in the weeds of the poem, all the details, the techniques we've been going over all year, and you've got to show how those techniques reveal the meaning. So, let somebody tell us, the first thing you have to do is anchor the poem in a real place in a real time. Not all poems are. Emily Dickinson doesn't always do that, but good, and she's a great poet. But all poets somehow anchor the abstract and the concrete to each other. They wed it. They they weld those together. So what is the precise place, as much as we can possibly get it? Yes, Courtney.
Okay. So I said the precise place is Dover Beach, and it's a border, which I think is important. You're looking over the English Channel into France. I said that it's nighttime because he talks a lot about the moon and all of that stuff. So I think that that's important
Yes.
for the setting. And then it was like the weather was not bad, but from this I get like, you know how if you're on a beach at night and it's kind of cold and you get like the mistiness of it. It was like a little bit dreary, but not really. You know what I mean?
And what about the beach does he focus on? Of all things, he didn't talk about the shells or the sand. What aspect of the beach is he kind of using?
Like when the water hits
The tide coming in or going out. Very good. There's one other thing I think we need to add. Is he alone or is he with somebody?
I think he's addressing a love interest.
Yes. Who
I
is-
guess they'd probably be there.
Yes. But can you show where that place is? Or you don't have to. You've gotten this as far. But
Earlier in
anybody?
the poem.
Yeah. Can you point out where in the poem? That's always.
In the last, I mean, it does sound like he's talking to somebody, but in the last one, he directly, or the last, I guess, was it stanza?
Yeah. Yeah.
He directly says, "Our love, let us be true," and he's like addressing someone who
Good.
he calls love.
Very good. Any place earlier, even in the first stanza, indicate, yeah.
When he says, come to the window,
Yeah.
and then you listen.
Very good. So that indicates that there is somebody there. He's not alone. And I liked everything else that you said. I guess the next place to go is, what is the poem about? It's about the wave. It's about the tide. But he's really direct. He tells us what the poem is about, what the major idea or the subject matter is. What is the subject matter of the poem that's anchored in this particular time and place? He comes right out and tells us, yes.
The sea of faith.
So what faith? The poem is about faith. Now what do we mean by that? What does he mean by the sea of faith? Faith in what?
Well, I thought it was faith in God.
He capitalizes it, so I would say that too. Religious faith in a broad sense, faith in God. The poem is about that. And what is he saying in the poem about that? About faith in general. Yes, Marie.
He's saying it's kind of faded away.
Right. We're losing it, okay? The next question to me is, what difference does it make, according to the poem? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Does he make that seem in the poem like a positive thing, a neutral thing? Wouldn't be neutral, he wouldn't be writing about it, or a negative thing?
I think it's more negative because he talks about how, the world used to be full of faithful people, but now he hears of melancholy, withdrawing roars, so it seems like everything's a lot sadder now.
And keep reading, because you're right, those are the words he uses to describe life without faith. You mentioned melancholy, withdrawing,
It's retreating.
yes,
And the naked shingles of the world.
right. The edges vast, edges drear, the word drear. So he's saying life without faith, he's using these negative terms to describe it. With faith, what was it? Earlier in that stanza, what is life with faith? What image does he use to describe it, Colleen?
Well, he uses words like full and round, or like old and bright, fertile.
Oh, can you explain that image?
Well, that's, but like, I don't know why, I just pictured the world being perfectly round, full of life and everything, but he doesn't have that anymore, so.
And look at the image. A girdle is something, anything that wraps around something and in a tight manner. So what, it sounds to me like that's it's a bright girdle furl. When something's furled, is that flag furled or unfurled? Unfurled. What do you do when you furl a flag? You what? You roll it up, you fold it up, so what could be positive? Why would such an image of something that encircles and kind of squeezes, or what's another word for it? Whatever belts do. What's positive? Why is that a positive image?
It's like holding you and holding everything together nice, and it's like, yeah.
Exactly. It's like the baby with the swaddling cloth. Or first thing they do to any baby, they wrap them up really tight because they like that, and it's probably good for them. It's like a hug. You know, what's repressive about a hug? Well, some people, I guess, you wouldn't want to be hugged by, but in general, are hugs bad or good? They're always good. And even though you're being squeezed, you're being held tightly, it's those very reasons why we like it. And so that's what faith is like. Tell me why. If in sort of the images are positive, what does faith bring? Yeah.
Well, I think of faith bringing comfort and like security, I guess.
And I think those are the exact words. And it can mean a lot of things too, other than that. But I think this poem focuses on that. So without them, what is he suggesting? If not comforting and not secure, right? If the girdle encircles, faith used to be like that, safe and secure. And you already mentioned, we already talked about the words that describe how negative it is. So what do we got so far? We've got the major image, the tide. We've got a particular place and time, and we know that it's about faith. Before we go any further, what difference does it make? And we know about that. We know that heaven and hell is involved, but in terms of your life on earth, and you don't have to answer this yet, can you say that faith, your faith, has any impact on you whatsoever? And is that impact positive? Would your life, I mean, just from a practical standpoint, living day to day, we know we're going to heaven and all that, but just on a day to day, what would your life be like without faith? You don't have to answer it, but to me, I have to go there when I think about it. We're talking about the world in general is less secure, and he's talking about it from a macro, large perspective. What about you? I mean, you know people that aren't believers. They look like they're doing just as well as you are, maybe better. What difference
I
is it?
think it is a matter of comfort and like knowing when something bad happens that it's going to work out eventually, and that just the major comfort that you get. I mean, if you don't have faith, you don't have hope and trust in God. So, I mean, without that, I don't feel like you can have much comfort.
So what would be life without hope, faith, and trust? seems to me that's a definition of people always want, everybody wants to be happy. That'd be a pretty good definition of being happy. And you're saying that those things are a result of faith. And we're, you know, again, he's probably Christian. I wish I knew more about him. Certainly he lives in the West. He lives in a Christian country. He's probably talking about Christianity. But in a general way, faith in something, like, remember Robert Frost, look for something like a star? That didn't sound very religious, but man, when you're in trouble, you want something to anchor your life, to hold on to look up to. I think he's kind of talking in the same respect. The other question is, what is the solution? Like, he's talking about the world has lost its faith, and he's given us some reasons to, he's told us that that's a bad thing. So what is the solution in the poem, Emily?
I think that he's saying, even if the world's like the faith and the world is fading, world is fading away, let us at least be faithful to each other.
That's what he's saying. How is that a solution?
It's within his control.
Something he can do. Does it in a small way capture what faith is about, I guess? So, yeah, he's looking at the person right next to him, whoever that person was, and he said, well, we can't do much about the world, but we can be faithful to each other. Notice at the end of that passage, more, and we want to end with this, more of what life without faith would look like. Look at that passage. I went through here, I think I told you the other day, I had time on my hands. I put in yellow, isn't that smart? Yellow meaning positive. The words, the happy words in the poem. And I put in orange because the only other color I had. I don't like orange. But those were the negative words. And I'd say the negative words kind of outnumber the yellow words. Don't shake like that. That bothers me. But I'm too young to be shaking. Anyway, forget you saw that. Well, look at the words at the end of the poem. What are the problems, more problems without faith, a life without faith? Hey, Willow, would you read just that last stanza again?
Our love, let us be true to one another, for the world, which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help or pain, and we are here, us on the darkling plains, like with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night.
So what is he, thank you, what is he saying is missing without faith in the world? I mean, it's more of the same, but I want to look particularly at the words that he uses. What does he say is missing? Eli, what's he missing? He says, let us love one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, various news, and so forth, hath really what? What's missing? Look at the list that he
says joy, love, and light, certitude, peace, and help for pain.
Those are all missing. Yeah. Life without joy, without love, without light, without certitude, without peace. Maybe this is a bad thing. Just if you watch the news at all, you'd be better off if you didn't. But things are really, now news, I don't say they don't exaggerate it, I'm not saying that, but by focusing always on the bad, they don't ever show you the good, so you don't really know, are there good things going on? So all you see is bad. In fact, it wouldn't be news, right? Who wants to watch good news? It's all news by nature is bad. So if you look at the news, that's what our world looks like right now, particularly in our country. I don't know how accurate that is, like the bigger picture. Is everybody like that? I don't think so. But those are the things that's missing. So if we finish, and look what happens at the very end. Swept, here we are as on a darkling place, swept with confused alarms of struggle, of flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. That's life without faith. So there are consequences to a world without faith. I was mentioning, I didn't ask him permission, but Mr. Sullivan was sharing, maybe he shared his testimony with you, but at one point we were all unbelievers. You're not born a believer. Now you may not remember when you became one. My wife does, but she was really young too. But I do because I was 18. he does, I don't know what age it was, but at one point he was very happy being an unbeliever. And it made him happy. The freedom of it made him really kind of excited and happy. It kind of relieved him of kind of a burden. And then he became a believer, and I'm not sure how that happened, but when he became a believer, he said something changed. It changed from that kind of excited freedom type thing into a deeper kind of feeling. He could tell a difference between life without faith, and at first it looks pretty good. You don't have to go to church anymore. You don't have to do good anymore, right? But I like the poem because he says there are consequences. There are consequences to life without faith, and it ends pretty sadly at the end of the poem. So good job. You got there a lot quicker than we did the other period. And I want to end, because I know we don't have much time, maybe don't have any time, but I'm going to give this to you anyway. And we have 5 minutes to leave, because they don't usually come on, so I want you to, I want to introduce, we'll finish this on Monday. The book is due on Friday. I said Thursday, but you have a lot going on Thursday, so I may save it until Friday. Yeah, with the girl. Pass that up. Yeah, we're gonna change things around.
So cute.
Look at him.
Look at him. Is it Maggie's version of?
All right, let me finish with this. This is a sample, and there are 3 of them here. We're gonna do all 3. We are gonna write another essay on something like new, but not on this. But this is practice. So the instructions, you have 40 minutes each. They recommend for 3 essays. You can apportion your time any way you want to. You can go back and forth. Like if you want to check on something or add to something, you can't do that with the multiple choice. When it's over, it's over. The essays, they give you this block of time where you're able to work with the, any of them. You have to number them. You write them on line paper. You have to use ink. And if you make mistakes, you draw a line through it. So anyway, it also says each essay in the second paragraph will be evaluated according to clarity, effectiveness in dealing with the topics, and the overall quality of your writing. If you have time, go over essays, checking its punctuation, spelling. Unless plenty of time remains, avoid major revisions. And there's more than that. There's the clear thesis statements. It's being focused on the thesis. It's apt and appropriate support. It's clear. It's elegance of writing. There's more to it than just that. But I want you to read maybe 5 minutes. I don't think any less time, and then probably they'll come on and we'll pray. But would you read this poem? And this is the assignment. You would have to write a well-organized essay discussing the techniques that the poet uses to convey his attitude toward the character in the poem. So what is the speaker attitude toward the character? There's one person. You may want to analyze the poet's use of imagery, choice of details, tone, and other things. And we will finish this Monday, but see what you can do in 5 minutes, 4.5 maybe. It's called Determination, and it goes over to the next page. It's not long.